Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 20 of the Combat Chain. I am your host Patrick Shaw, and with me as always is my co-host Adam Philipchuk. Adam, how are you doing on this Canada Day weekend?
Hey, Canada Day, yeah. I'm doing great, Pat. It's good to be here. Been playing lots of Flesh and Blood, enjoying the new Uprising stuff, jamming some games, mostly games with Fi right now, but eyeing up Icelander as well. I bit the bullet and I bought the Fable.
Did it. You got the Blood of the Drakai? Is that what
Blood
it is?
of the Drakai.
How do you like it? How do you like it? Does it play well? Is it in Fi?
I think so. I hope so. I haven't been getting TTS games in, so I haven't had a chance to really play around with it in paper yet either.
Yeah.
So I'm in part like I do think it's going, just looking at it, how can it not be somewhat?
The ceiling's pretty high on it. I'd say that. I want to live in a world where I can pitch a Blood of the Drakai and a triple tome on one turn. That is the Christmas land dream for
Tome
this
of
guy.
Firebrand?
Yes, Tome of Firebrand. Yep. So not only do I have to attack with 4 draconic attacks, I have to have both the gem and a tome available to pitch and do that. I guess I could pitch the gem for the 4th attack and maybe hit a mask trigger because my opponent misplayed terribly and let me drew into a tome and start the Prism-esque cascade of hellfire, perhaps. But that is pipe dream stuff. I'm very happy for your purchase there.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the purchase was motivated in part just by the desire to want to collect the full set, and the price was right. $250 Canadian. I think it's what, $210 roughly on TCG Player last I saw. I paid $250 Canadian, which is somewhere around there in USD. And it's being hand delivered.
Ooh, spicy.
By a friend. Yeah. No, it's things are good. How are you, Pat?
I am good. I'm good. It is 4th of July weekend. The fireworks are already happening. So if you hear some little pops in the background, I am very close to the downtown area of my town where all the partying happens, and it's the night before the 4th of July is a big party night, so you can usually hear them going off till late. But I've been doing good. I just got my first case of Uprising today.
Had a spicy case.
That was a good case. Topped it off with a cold foil Crown of Providence. It was a triple legendary case. I also opened up the Coronet Peak and the Alluvian Constellus.
I think that's right.
As well as a cold foil Quelling Robe and Heat Wave. Cold foil, and Conduit of Frostburn, a cold foil Frost Hex, and 2 Marvel Dragons, Miragai, and Yandurai. Sure, we're gonna go with those.
I think that's right. The other one.
That is a pretty solid handful of cold foils and Marvels. That also included an extended art Flamecall Awakening and I don't know, it felt like 24 Majestics across the board. It was pretty good. So my original case was supposed to be here yesterday, but just shipping delays just long enough for it to push it. Now it's scheduled till Wednesday, and I did not want to wait. So I went to my local game store, and I did trade in some cards to help with the cost. So I said goodbye to an extra carry-on husk that I had, a foil Enlightened Strike, and a cold foil Pulse of Volthaven. Helped pay for some of the case here.
Not bad at all.
No, I think it was pretty good. I also had some store credit on there and some cash on hand, so I took off about half and then put the other half on my credit card there. So that's it for the case. I have been kind of neck deep in Flesh and Blood as well. I'm not going to have a Road to Nationals this season. It just we touched on it briefly a couple episodes ago, but just scheduling wise, it's just not happening. So the only way that I'm going to get in is if I can make the 90-day cutoff for XP. So I have been on the grind as much as I can with online and local armories. And I started at 132 XP, and I was like, I don't know, 2,000 and something. At the moment, I have 175 XP. It keeps fluctuating because I'm right on I feel like a tidal wave of like 90-day clear out is happening. So some of my XP is like right on that 90th day. So every day it's a little exciting to whether or not I can, keep up and ahead of where I am. So actually yesterday I was at 181. And this morning or tonight right now I'm at 175. But that puts me at it is 900 and something in the global, and I am 331 in the US. And if I remember correctly, the US Nats XP qualifiers went all the way through the top 366 players because whoever was top 100 that was already qualified, they just kept extending down until all the slots were filled. So I actually think I'm in a pretty good spot, if we're being honest. I was trying to shoot for 4 events a week, 3 of them online, being Monday nights online, Thursday nights online, Friday nights online, and then I got a Sunday local armory that I've been going to pretty regularly. So for the first couple weeks, it was going real smooth. One of the things I stopped doing was screwing around a little bit with my deck choices, and started doing either top of the meta or the deliberate meta calls, depending on how I knew the players were gonna be. So for Blitz, I've mained Rhinar for a lot of my Blitz armories, and for CC, it's been a little bit of a mix, but I've been switching between Katsu and Dory, and I've actually been able to get my win rate over the last 3 weeks or so up past 50%. I've been able to manage kind of a 3 win per armory, and that's been kind of like my goal here. But I've been able to maintain for the most part 3 wins per armory over the last few weeks. And like I said, I've gone up. I started at 132 and 175 right now in the last couple of weeks. The Monday armory hasn't fired off a couple weeks in a row, and that's kind of hurt my projections a little bit. So looking at you, Max, you get the Fighters Guild fired up here because someone's got to get his XP in. Yeah, so I actually feel like I'm in an okay spot.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it.
My math had me at hovering around 300 total XP by the time of the cutoff, which I don't think would make global top 100. It depends really on like the day. and who's got what and who is grinding and how many people decide to really, really go for it. 400 is really the safe spot there. So I am hinging on 90-day XP for US getting me there. So as long as I stay pretty consistent, I feel like I'm in a good spot. Even if a couple armories don't fire every week, then I still think I'll be in a pretty good spot. And talking with my peers and everything, it does seem like it's consistency over time more than anything else. Like as long as you're participating and putting up, respectable numbers, the XP comes and you get to where where you want to be. So looking forward to, kind of playing it out. I'll tell you what, the big thing for me now is, now that I've got some cards in front of me from Uprising, I am notorious for trying to make ninjas work at the beginning of a new meta and then waiting too long to switch out and do something a little more serious. So we'll see if I can take me where I want to go here.
I think Fi's a good choice to start things off.
Especially for armories, I think it's in a pretty good spot. My Katsu deck is in a very good spot. I don't have enough to do the upgrades that I have for to add in for Uprising, but it really is kind of like, it's like double strike and take the tempo and not much else other than some defense reactions, but my core stays the same. I haven't tested a ton of it into the new stuff, but I do think Katsu's in kind of a good spot there. And hashtag spoiler, I'm going to have a deck guide out soon here. It is being edited, not as we speak because we're recording the podcast, but I am editing down an in-depth guide on my Katsu deck. I have tuned it over time, and it is my baby. It is my pet deck. It hasn't been, like I said, it hasn't been top tier, but I've been, especially these days, I've been able to kind of bring it out, and it handles itself very well. So I'm going to be putting some together for that, and that should be out as soon as I get it finished. As soon as I get the editing finished for it, we'll have it out.
I just want to highlight something there quickly, Pat. You say it hasn't been top tier. Something I think really crucial to bear in mind for why Katsu maybe hasn't been top tier for the last little bit is Katsu is so dependent on hit triggers. His Katsu ability, I am going to say Whelming Gust Wave, but I feel like maybe there's going to be a shift away from the Whelming Gust Wave Surging Strike line. Mask is another really crucial one. And when Chain came into the scene and Monarch dropped, Carrion Husk coming out made it so easy for Chain to push Katsu out of the meta. And now that Chain's gone, that premier aggro strategy's out, plus a premier aggro strategy that can just block so well and shut down a deck like Katsu. There's actually room in the meta for Katsu to shine again, and I think that's a reason why Katsu's a great place to explore right now. Not only does he have room in the meta, he's got some new toys like Shuko, Double Strike, and Take the Tempo. And I imagine a lot of that's also in your deck tech.
It is. It was started pre-Uprising, so we'll have some footnotes towards the end about what to do with some of the new cards. But it is going to be a core of up through Everfest, and like we just said, not a whole lot changes with Uprising. But with double strike added into Katsu really gives it a much wider chain to start threatening Mask multiple times a turn in some instances, and that's going to be kind of a spicy thing to it. It's funny though. I'll wait for the video to come out. I do have a slightly different take on Katsu's on hit triggers and how it. My deck is built around subverting that expectation, I'll say. So stay tuned for that. That's coming out fairly soon here. I did want to talk about, so this isn't necessarily flesh and blood related, but it is. It's dad related, and we got some fab dads out there. We got some fab parents that listen to the pod. So I thought people might appreciate just some little tidbits about my week, the life in the Shaws here. So Monday, I get a text message from Mrs. Smashgood, and it is an image, and it is an image of my TV in the living room with black bars running down the middle of the television, and the message, "The bad thing happened," and a quick call confirms that my rambunctious 4-year-old decided to kind of chuck some stuff around, and shrapnel hit the TV and took it out. So I got a 65-inch TV, wall mounted. Very proud of it. It's a good TV, but it is essentially destroyed. Still turns on, but it's got the lines down the middle. It's all blacked out down the middle where he hit it, and it's lines running across the screen, and so that happened, and that was the worst thing that happened that day until we get into the car to do some errands after I get home from work, and my oldest calls Mrs. Smashgood while we're backing out of the driveway, and she is in hysterics, and she tells us that she just got into a car accident.
Oh no.
She is okay. She is 100% fine. But she apparently was in traffic on the highway, and a delivery driver in a small box truck a couple cars behind her got a leg cramp and jammed down on the accelerator because of the cramp, and forced 2 cars into her, like the 2 cars back, and then the box truck rams into cars 1 and 2. Car 2 kind of mushes out of the way, and then the car behind it ends up hitting her as well, and she bumped into the front car and messed up her vehicle. So we ended up picking her up. It was raining. It was pouring rain that day. I was like, oh God, this is a terrible time. We were where I was speeding. I did not care. I almost jumped the curb when we got close to the highway. I was like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? But we get there. They'd already towed the car away, and so we picked her up. The police and fire were still waiting for her on the side of the highway. We pulled over and grabbed her, and we just got so that was Monday, right? So the TV and the car go on Monday. The assessors look at the car and they're pretty sure it's totaled. And it's 2022 in America. We're still trying to figure out what all that means and what that means for her. She's a very busy young lady. She goes to she works and does she does elite cheer as her thing. That's her thing. And we used to drive her all over the place, and now she was old enough to drive. We got her the car. Blah, blah, blah. So now we're trying to figure out how life goes on here. We got the TV thing squared away. That one was the easy thing. What we're not doing is getting an expensive TV, because my kids can just throw another thing at it, and I'd rather not. I want something small enough where the warranty doesn't matter.
Good, yeah, reasonable idea. Yeah, totally.
But the car thing's another matter altogether. We're trying to figure out how that all works, and they're the driver was at fault. It was with a company that they were doing the delivery for, and the company was actually, as it is a large company, but they have been very helpful. But yeah, it is very it's not a great time to buy a car in America right now.
No.
It is just not a great place to be. So gotta make sure she's driving something safe. So we're kind of weighing our options right there. But yeah, it all happens at once, and it never happens in a convenient time. So to all the fab dads out there, there's just a snapshot of my week there that I think you thought you might appreciate.
Jeez, that's well, when it rains, it pours. I'm sorry to hear that, Pat.
Yeah, it certainly does. But I did get the cold foil crown of Providence. So, win some, lose some.
Yeah, that's silver linings at least. Yeah, you're totally right.
But all right, that is enough of that. Let's move on to talking about the news. We did have some events since our last episode. We've had a couple things go down. Our Road to National season started, and the Realm Games in Ohio held their 10K, which is it is a community organized event. It was not a LSS run event. It was supported by LSS. They gave it the thumbs up, but it was not it was not a Road to Nationals. It was not a Pro Tour qualifier of some kind. But they usually have these. These have been popping up with Flesh and Blood more and more. These 1K, 5K. This is the first 10K that we've heard, and it attracted a myriad of people, high-profile Flesh and Blood players, to come and compete. And that included Dalen Max, Travis McDaniels. We had Brendan Patrick, who actually transitioned to casting the 10K. After short notice, Tannen Grace was supposed to cast, and something happened with Tannen, so Brendan filled in. It was also casted by friend of the pod, Matt DeMarco, the featured caster there, as well as Charmer. Between the three of them, they casted the weekend. It was the unique thing about this tournament was that it was in its own unique tiny meta. It was taken it was after the banned and suspended announcement on the 24th. So Living Legend was in effect. So no Starvo, no Chain. But due to circumstances outside their control, the delayed shipment and thus U.S. release of Uprising from the 24th to the week following the 1st, Uprising was no longer legal in the CC tournament. So you had the solely unique tournament that had both the Living Legend and no Uprising. So you had, what I've dubbed the pocket meta, right? You had 7 days of just this, one time only.
We saw some super interesting decks show up for that pocket meta too. Like, I think
sure did.
Crown of Seeds, Corsham Briar is what took it overall. Everything else.
Yeah, Naib Mobasir, apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly, did take the tournament, winning the finals against Prism, piloted by Travis McDaniels. And Naib is running a Briar list that has my favorite card, Belittle, with Belittle Miniwism combination. But it did have Crown of Seeds as its headpiece. It ran Corsham, Crossroad of Elements, and Eye of Ophidia, as well as a heavy reliance on Earth and Earth Fuse cards, as shown with Rites of Replenishment, Explosive Growth, as well as your standard Channel Mount Heroic. It ran the So Tomorrows. It even put in some Sting of Sorceries. Just a lot of things in there that won a Singleton Rattlebones, which won him his semifinals match when he blocked Oldham with 3 cards. I think he had 3-card block, and he had a Rattlebones and Arsenal. that no one who didn't see the deck list knew was even there, pitched to play Rattlebones and fetched a red Vexing Malice, and played that, and Oldham could not block enough Arcane to stop him, and that's how he ended up winning his top 4 match with a Rattlebones and Briar. Craziness.
It's spicy stuff for sure.
It is. It's definitely spicy. It is super controversial. If you talk to, the people who decide what cards are optimal and what not, and what cards are not, this is a terrible deck. But to them, I say it won. So how terrible can it be? Rounding out the top 8, we had Jesse Kennan on Runeblade as well, in a much more familiar looking list, complete with Nimbleisms, Revels, and Runebloods, a couple Coaxes, the usual suspects there. Yanji Lee on Viserai Runeblood made top 8, losing in the top 8 to Oldham, but I believe he was top seed coming out of the Swiss, and was top seed in the top 8 there. I've said top way too many times, but his list was kind of reinvigorated some enthusiasm here for Viserai. Some unique additions to his list: a 2 of Last Ditch Effort in blue, which I'm still kind of humming about. Running the Arknight Shard, a Singleton Remembrance, presumably for those longer matchups to try and withstand fatigue, and a 2 of Drawn to the Dark Dimension Red are some highlights in Yanji's Viserai list.
Arknight Shard is one I have always struggled to see the value in.
It is definitely interesting. You got to wonder if there's, all right, it's bad when it whiffs for something, right? If you Sonata, if you do something, you need a non-attack action, and you have Arknight Shard, you're not in a very good place.
Oh, exactly.
So I'm wondering, obviously he found a way to make it work. Me being the peasant I am with 0 fables to this point, might go with either making a 2 of, a 3 of something, or he does run a Singleton Tome of the Arknight, which I might pop up to 2 if I were to shamelessly net deck him and try to find a substitute for the Arknight Shard. I'd probably do something like that. We do have, in addition to those players, Dakota Hawks, Ryan Rich, and Charles Dunn, all running Oldham. So 3 Oldhams in the top 8. These were more aggressive tilted Oldhams, notable for running. No. That one wasn't. Was it just Charles Dunn? It was. Yeah. So these Oldhams were kind of very aggro leaning, multiple pummels in the main board. A lot of your 3 of Enlightened Strike, Zealous Belting, things that you saw kind of towards the end of the Tails meta. And Charles Dunn's list in particular ran all 9 pummels that he could. Ran Arknight Skullcap instead of Crown of Seeds, and really just went for it. And
just that, full send.
Oh, it is gross to watch. But focusing on things like Frostfangs and Icy Encounters, which are still pummelable attack actions, right?
Pummel targets.
Actions that are legal targets of pummel. Yeah. But especially the Frostfangs in red and blue as pummel targets can be quite devastating if your opponent's not ready for it. Frostfangs on hit says discard or pay 2. I believe, and I think that scales to the color. I may be wrong on that, but I can't pop it up at the moment.
I think it's just the power that scales to the color, and the pay 2 is regardless.
It's constantly, yep. So discard or pay 2 on hit. If you stack a pummel on there, you're getting rid of at least 2 cards from their hand, unless, like I said, unless they've weirdly pitched in a way that allows them to float 2 defensively, which isn't unheard of. Rounding out the top 8 there, we have Justin Price and Travis McDaniel on Prism Sculptor of Arclight, and of course Travis McDaniel in the finals against Naib, running Prism, and ultimately not being able to seal the deal there. But very definitely an interesting event. How do you feel about that top 8 that we'll never see again? A couple Briars, couple Oldhams, couple Prisms, with a rune with a Viserai to round it out.
You know what? None of it surprises me. I think that was all for the most part, the usual suspects. I think how the flavor of some of those heroes is what surprised me more than anything. Like, I come back to the winning list, a Corsham Crown of Seeds Briar. Like, that is something else.
So after that event, that was streaming and I was watching it live, and I was actually at a family function outside next to a pool, refusing to go into the water and watching my cell phone, and much the chagrin of most of my family and friends around me, until they approach me and go, "What are you doing?" "I'm watching Flesh and Blood." But I watched the top 4, and I was super impressed with Briar, so much so that I've done some testing with Briar with Crown of Seeds at the helm, and just my usual Briar list, and you know what? It's pretty friggin' good. I'm not gonna lie, it is real good, especially in the right matchups. I think it belongs. I think it belongs in there. Especially coming into Uprising, I think everyone kind of expected Crown of Providence to take the place of Arcanite Skullcap. Now that you got a headpiece that does something for you, but Crown of Seeds has been there the whole time, and it works. That one helps so much. The ability to cycle offensively, it gives you a reason to run Tunic. I've been an Aether Ironweave guy through and through, but the running Crown of Seeds makes me want to use Tunic. Using the Tunic resource to activate Crown aggressively, it's just, it's all the things. It does a lot for you.
I can see the utility with it. Like, I can see helping with breakpoints, and cycling. Now you don't care what you put in your arsenal because you can cycle it away, draw a card. Like, there's a lot of there's find those channel mount heroics, which really is Briar's win condition. Find those that much quicker. I can totally see the use for it.
I have supreme confidence in Crown of Seeds in aggro matchups. You have to worry less about Embodiment of Earth being created when you can still get one and get save yourself. A 3-block is still a 4-block if you get your crown off, or if you can activate Crown of Seeds. It lets you see it more, see more cards so that you can get to channel faster. I like it in the aggro, especially against the ninjas. It prevents a Phoenix Flame from doing something silly, and sure, you're spending a resource trying, cycling through, but you're not putting a 3-block down to stop a 1 for a mask trigger or something like that. It allows you to easily prevent that damage without much consequence to it, and likewise with Katsu and the Kadachi, for the same reason that Oldham is kind of a bear against Katsu, because they could crown and Ram's Head. Briar can crown against Kadachi and just makes Katsu's life a little more difficult. So it's not fun. I just happened. I ran a few games with it and I fell in love with it. So what I'm still trying to figure out is whether or not I take it out. I'm very wary of the Kano matchup. As long as I'm not sure it replaces Crown and Dichotomy in the Wizard matchup. Specifically Kano, I think I'm okay with it replacing Crown of there's too many crowns.
Replacing crown for crown, and then I could
yeah, I'm gonna replace crown for crown, and then when I need block, I'll just put the other crown in there. But arcane barrier versus one prevention. When does that become better or worse? Can I, am I okay with pitching a card and floating two, preventing one, and I can still, or if I do that, I'm still essentially readying myself for AB3, but the circumstances around having to do it as an instant, et cetera, can kind of open itself up to, to wizardy instant things a little more than, just your traditional arcane barriers. So I do have to test that matchup a little more. But yeah, so that was definitely interesting, and I do think that it was kind of a jump start for some of these, old guard heroes into the new meta. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these builds kind of carry their weight here moving forward. But it was a very successful weekend. The second day was supposed to be I forget what the format was intended to be.
It was supposed to be Team Blitz, and then they switched it to Uprising Team Sealed.
Yes, so they did Uprising Team Sealed there, and I do believe that Brendan Patrick's team won the Team Sealed, and it was himself, Michael Fang, and Yanji Lee, I think, as the team to take it.
That's correct.
And we had touched on the idea of Team Sealed and how potentially broken that could be if you open enough cards and have a big enough pool and are able to divvy out the heroes like that. So I did not watch the Team Sealed event, but I heard that was a very fun time. I'd definitely be interested in see what that looks like and do it on my own and be able to do that with a couple guys. That seems like it would be a super fun time.
Oh yeah, Team Sealed's a blast. I've had the chance to do it a few times now, and it's always such an.
You gotta have you have to have the right, you have so many cards. It must be super tough to build a bad deck at that point.
Yeah, because you can build to different strengths and just around. You have such a diverse pool that you could just spread out the power cards for each different kind of build in, and it works out pretty good.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a blast. I feel like I would be more okay with playing Icelander if I could do it in Team Sealed and take everybody's blue ice cards instead of settling.
Yeah, then you see some really potent You see some really potent decks for each hero.
Right.
They become constructed decks.
Budget. Yeah, right. Like budget blitz decks at that point. Yeah. So that was the first event. We also had we're actually coming out of week 1 of Road to Nationals. So a couple Road to Nationals have already happened throughout the world. And we do want to highlight a couple of them. We want to shout out Andrea Biaggi, aka Capolo, who won his Road to Nationals in the draft format.
Go Capolo, yeah, woo!
Go Cap. It's it's a well-earned, well-deserved win. He's a hell of a guy. I was able to team up with him in New Jersey for a Team Blitz event. Very fun. He's got a very deliberate style about him when he's playing his dash, and he boosts, and he's got his accent. there, and it's just like it's just a fun time. But yeah, good job, Cap. And go. You still need to figure out when Nationals is, so we can, we know when that is and where it is, so we can root for you there. But on top of
you too, there, Pat.
Yeah, right. Hey, well, we'll see what we can do here. It's the third. I got 21 days left of grinding. But yeah, so Cap wins his draft road to Nationals, and we have Hayden Dale, a little known player from the Australian side of the world. He won a classic constructed road to Nationals event on Viserai.
Did he know?
He did. And he posted his deck list. He laid out all of his cards and took a picture of his deck. And wouldn't you know, what card do you think may have stuck out the most in Hayden Dale's Viserai list?
He had access to Uprising, so Sift.
Sift was in the list. But a little older card, not traditionally seen in Viserai. The illustration is that of a tiny man holding an axe.
Belittle Minnowism.
Belittle Minnowism. He was running 6 belittles, 3 reds and 3 yellows. And he was also running how many? He was running 2 blue sifs. He was running 3 yellow belittles, as well as 3 yellows and 3 reds, 3 red Minnowisms, and where are they? And 1 blue Minnowism. So 6 belittles, 4 Minnowisms.
Oh, interesting though that he's leaning more on the pump side of Minnowism, not the resource side of it.
Yes, yep, no, very much so. And you know what? That seems to be a common thread, at least in. I know Chain liked to use the blue and was Chain was always kind of resource hungry, and really liked those blues. Made use of the reds, but still ran its full suite of blue Minnowisms, and then I believe it was usually either 2, usually 2 reds, I believe, that came with it. But both Breyer lately, even before the 10K, Breyer has been doing a lot of experimenting with Belittle, and you see a lot more Belittles and Minnowisms in their lists. And those are also 3 red to 1 Minnowism, but usually just the red Belittles. So the yellow Belittles, in addition, are a pretty spicy add-on here to the list. He also is running 3 of Command and Conquer, something you actually don't see a ton of lately. There are 3 red Vexing Malices to go with the 3 blues that are usually seen in there, and the rainbow full set of Mauve Skies for the prerequisite Runeblade Go Again attacks. But congratulations to Hayden Dale, taking a road to Nationals with Viserai. I know a lot of people perked up almost immediately as soon as he posted that on Twitter. You could feel kind of the groundswell of engagement on his list, and the fact that Belittle was so prominently featured in the list. I know I I am on the record as disliking both Belittle and Minnowism.
Belittle, it's just a good card. It's card advantage. It's resources when you need it. It's a pump when you need it, like a non-attack action when you need it in Runeblade, and it's so many good things.
It is. It is so good that I think it's a problem, is what I think. I'm going to say it now. I think it probably should start to be looked at in for a banned or suspended. Either one or the other, either Belittle or Minnowism, or both as a package. Either way, I'm fine with. But I think we're running into plunder run territory of ubiquity in decks and homogenization of deck building in aggressive decks. It seems like two things are happening. Your deck either is okay and you can it works with Belittle because of the nature of your cards, in which case it is almost always correct to add Belittle with Minnowism's seasoned to flavor. But I believe that we're getting to a point where if your deck does not work with Belittle, you are almost obligated to change your deck so that it does, as opposed to just excluding Belittle out of your deck. And I think that's where we run into the I think bannable part of the card right now.
I see what you're saying. I don't personally know if I feel that it's to that degree, but it's certainly finding its way. It's finding its way into a lot of deck building right now. You're right. It's in the file list I'm playing around with right now. Like
mine as well, unfortunately. But it is, I think I've only been able to hold out on it in Katsu. Just the way my particular version of Katsu doesn't really have a ton of room for it, and I am happier for that. But
until you face the sad, you come to the sad realization that you're just better off with it in that list too.
Yep. There is the uprising considerations do include Belittles into the list, in which case, what are you doing? You're changing your deck around so that the Belittles work a little more. And it is, it's early, but now I'm hearing it in Dromai. And it's one of those things that kind of just in these draconic decks, it just kind of makes sense to have a red card that you can play to start off your combat chain or your turn, and it can fetch either a resource or another red card that you can do with as you see fit, whether that's throw in as a non-attack. You can arsenal a red one to set up for later. You can get the blue one to pitch for the resources that you didn't have. It's great. Pay one for what, either essentially 6 go again, or 3 and 3 resources. There's the fact that it takes the card and puts it into your hand like that is a supremely powerful ability. It broke Commoner. It's still great in Briar to be able to fetch the non-attack, and all of a sudden you didn't have, you might not have had the embodiment of lightning access, and then you can just fetch it and make it so, and continue your chain continue to turn into crazy broken Briar stuff that is made better with the addition of the cards. I don't know what it is that I don't like about it so much. Like, I was sad to see Plunder Run leave, but I understood that Plunder Run was like in that same boat of ubiquity where you basically needed Plunder Run in there for aggro decks to succeed. But I guess you didn't have to warp your deck around Plunder Run. You just had to include it. You know? But Belittle has the restriction where you have to have those 3 powers in there. If you have a bunch of 4 powers, right, you're not getting the Belittle payoff. And so, right, it used to be that you just take it out. Like, all right, I don't have enough 3 attacks in there to make this worth it. I'll just put a bunch of other cards that I want in there. No, now you could be running you're running your ninja deck, you're running your dragon centric deck, but you got to throw in that little generic tiny guy with an axe in there no matter what your theme is. So, I am early in it, but I do think if we hit, there's going to be this road to national season, and I think if we're going into Pro Tour, Lil, and we see that, right, we see the numbers reflect, right? If Belittle Minnowism is in, 80% of the decks that were eligible to play it, and it made sense to, and the top 8 of Pro Tour Lil has, 6 of 8 decks that run Belittle Minnowism, I think you'll see something after Pro Tour at the next banned and suspended list.
Yeah, you certainly could be right. Like I said, I don't know if we're there yet, but if it keeps up, we certainly could be getting there.
Yep. So, I know I'm a little harsh on it. I do, for some reason, like I said, I like the flavor of Flesh and Blood, and I feel like putting it into cards, into decks that aren't thematically appropriate, and I know that there are some cards that are, it's okay in, but I think Fi was what really did it for me. It's like, oh, I want fire dragon attack things, and then this guy shows up, and it's like, yeah, I'm better than any other card you might throw in here, so just put me in here and we'll worry about the draconic attacks later. You're better off for me having been in here anyways. All right, I guess.
Just wait till it finds its way into Icelander.
It does love blue pitch non-attack actions, Ooh, wouldn't that just be? He's like, what's really an optimal play in Icelander? Instant speed Minnowism on your opponent's turn. That is really, it's some spicy stuff. Okay, all right. So yeah, Belittle is terrible and ruining the game. Needs to go on the ban list. Now to our main topic of the day. It's Mailbag! Episode 20 is a big, nice, round number, and to celebrate, we posted to the audience the old Ask Me Anything questions, and we got a solid handful of questions, so we're going to spend some time in answering audience questions. So, are you ready to answer some mailbag questions?
Let's do it. Let's dive into the mailbag.
All right, let me just open the physical mailbag that I have, take my hand into the bag, and pull out the first handwritten letter question that was mailed to me. And this one comes via Tommy Fresh, host of the Fresh and Buds podcast, a good friend of the channel, and close personal friends to you and I, and a recent guest of the pod here himself.
That's right. He was part of our. We talked some limited going into Uprising.
That's right. And clearly, other friend of the pod, Capolo, listened to that podcast, and you are welcome, Mr. Capolo, for the advice ahead of time. So Tommy asks, what is the best 3 resource play in the game? Or the most bang for your blue cheese?
I mean, my mind right away goes back to the Ira days. Ira was the king of the 2-card hand, being able to go Kadachi, attack, in threat and 10 damage off of a 2-card hand in Blitz. That was a pretty good that was incredible resource off of one, or incredible resourcefulness off of a blue.
I'm also a fan of the Ninja 3 resource plays. I can get one of the fun things about the Welcome to Wraith Ninja combos is that they all cost a total of 3. Yes, they all cost a total of 3. So if you have the cards and means to do so, you can pitch a blue and you can Surging Strike for 2, Whelming for 0, Magenchi for 1, and Lord of Wind for 0+. You can Leg Tap for 1, Rising Knee Thrust, Hurricane Technique, bring it back to your hand, and Hurricane Technique for 3. And just to round it off, you can Head Jab, Open the Center for 2, and Pounding Gale for 1. So all of those are fun. But of course, none of them hold a bag to playing Channel Mount Heroic and winning the game. All right, 3 resources. You put the damn aura on the board. You attack for 1 million. You call it a day. Endless Maw has nothing on it, Tommy. It's a bad blue resource plays Endless Maw. So that one is for you, Tommy. We are going to now look at, in my excitement to research Hayden's list, I'm going to backtrack here a little bit. Okay, here we go. Clark Jansen asks, will Young Chain with Seeds of Agony and Husk be viable in CC if people aren't prepared for it? And will people rage quit because of it?
This is a good question, honestly. I know I saw Yuki make a Twitter post about this recently. I think she was on Young Chain with Seeds. Like, this is... Didn't you do the math? Isn't it like 33 health or something like that?
Start with 33. You do Skull Cap starts turned on. You have Carry on Husk. So you're starting on 2, 6. Grasp is another 2. Both Skull Cap and Grasp totaling 3 each. So you have 12, and then 13 is if you're running Creepers, which you should be at that point. So you're starting at 20. You have 13 armor total. You're at 33 life, and you can run Seeds of Agony. I am told that main boarding red Seeds of Agony is bad. Apparently, red Seeds is just bad. You want 6 seeds main board, the yellow and the blue, and then you side in the red against fatigue. Is what I have been told.
Interesting.
I have not. I have put a list together. I have not tested it yet. I am interested in it. I'm also an amateur chain player. So you see a bunch of non-chain players going, maybe, and really buying themselves into the idea that Young Chain is a viable CC contender. But you know what you don't see are chain players playing Young Chain. They have moved on, and that should tell me something. If nothing else, the chain players are not going to Young Chain. They are going elsewhere. For the most part, they're, I believe, Briar, but some people are exploring other things. But if those chain players were we're reverting to young chain in order to exploit seeds, then I think it would really, there's to be some solid ground to stand on. That being said, I don't put it past someone to, well, I will say someone will qualify for nationals piloting young chain. How about that?
You're probably right, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, like, young chain is going to do something impressive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Just enough. Okay. That is Clark's question. Next up, we have Andy Modell. He asks, thoughts on the new rules about arranged concessions for an invite counting as bribery? What will need to be done in RTN season? Andy brings up a very good question, and we're actually going to pull up the article in that he's talking about. It is Back Alley Oracle number 7, Penalty and Procedure Guide. And all the way down on the bottom, we have conspiring to have a player win a tournament to gain a Nationals or Pro Tour invite is considered bribery. Finally, just a reminder that conspiring to have a player win a tournament through organized concessions is considered bribery. After some review, we found that a number of top 8 cuts at Tier 2 tournaments were simply not being played out, and that the 8 players were conceding to ensure that one specific player received the professional tournament invite. And everyone gets an equal cut of the cash prize, or cash from the selling of the prize. This is antithetical to our philosophy of players playing great games. We are looking into providing additional positive solutions to address specific situations where this is more likely to occur, similar to how we allow players to transfer PTIs. But in the meantime, players should keep in mind that using incentives to determine the outcome of a match or a series of matches is considered bribery and will result in disqualification. I believe this is interesting on 2 fronts. One, I have never heard of a tournament ending in a series of concessions. So maybe that is just my inexperience at a competitive level. But I have not had a chance to experience something like that, nor have I heard anybody discuss anything like that. So I'm very interested in the scenarios that are being seen here that would represent something to the scale in which they're talking about here.
I have heard of some concessions happening before. Like an entire string of concessions happening. I haven't seen it firsthand, but that's not to say it's not happening. I mean, if something's gotten back to LSS about this, certainly it must have happened or happened on multiple occasions, possibly. I mean, the world's a big place. Flesh and Blood's a fairly small community, but it's becoming less and less the case. So it is possible that something like this happened and it hasn't made it back to our corner of the world. I don't know if maybe that's in like the Asiatic market or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And not saying that it's not happening. Obviously, they have enough, at least anecdotal evidence, and I'm sure that there is some confirmation of such, or else they wouldn't make an official policy of it. But it is also interesting because it does bring up a very good point, right? That we've seen a lot of concessions on an individual scale, right? We know that it's okay. At one point, it was not okay to just say, all right, bud, you win. I just scoop, right? That was grounds for a disqualification at one point. So and now we can just give up, right? If the game is unwinnable, you do not have to play it out. You can concede at any time without penalty. Great. We know that ProQuests and ProQuest winning got a little convoluted because of the talent and skill level of some players to be able to consistently arrive at the final table and then do with it what they will, right? They can choose to they can the game ends without being played, and the player with the PTI already, or the Pro Tour Lil invite already happened to not get it this time. They get the gold foil in their hands, and the other player has the Pro Tour invite. That happens a lot, right? You can have a player who consistently wins and wants the gold foils and doesn't necessarily need the PT out of that, right? It this also came up with the initial policy to transfer PTIs, right? What do people do when you log jam that many things? How can you have so many of the good thing that you'll never be able to utilize that effectively? How can you make it beneficial for these people? How can you incentivize these people to compete continually through and basically collect these things? And also, is it healthy for this to happen in the first place, to kind of bottleneck a certain group of players into the ones that are not gatekeeping, but as a natural consequence of what they're doing, it does kind of put a ceiling on some players' access to these same events.
I mean, the selling one, I've always been a little on the fence about. It's being able to sell a PT. I get it, like the bottleneck happens, and maybe you need to like incentivize people to keep competing, but the selling and buying of PTIs, I think is just questionable. Yeah.
So it opens up a lot of questions, right? And there's not a lot of solutions there. But on its face, this is all right. It's a solid policy, right? If 8 people are deliberately not playing the game in order to manipulate the outcome to someone's favor, now we're talking about integrity of games at that point, right? It's why players can't gamble on football, right? Football, baseball, sports, right? Sports gambling, sports players gambling on their own teams or own sports is one of the biggest taboo things you can do in sports. Look at Pete Rose. Pete Rose was banned from baseball for decades because he was suspected of gambling on his own team. Decades later, he did in fact confess to doing that, but he was a pariah because he broke that big taboo. So, is this to that scale? Maybe not at the moment because of the size of the game, but what we're talking about then is integrity of the game. At some point, if those players signed up without the intention of playing, you got to start questioning their motivations in the first place, right? And the answer isn't necessarily win your PTI and then not play Flesh and Blood for a couple months. So there's got to be a happy medium somewhere there. But I do believe if you sign up to one of these tournaments, I got to imagine that you're going to try, signing up with the intention of playing, right? Playing the game and seeing it through. Otherwise, you're not doing it for the right reasons, right? You're not playing the game. You're doing something else that's not that.
Point? Yeah.
Right. So, and to that end, I support any and all policies that maintain the integrity of the game. So, like I said, I haven't seen this kind of thing happening. But if it is, they're right to stop it. I do think that it is still, you see a lot of this in Magic too, right? Like draws and concessions to top 8, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a natural part of the game, and just because of how you build win losses and seeding and things of that nature, like I'm not going to fault someone for either asking for a draw or concession to get into in the top 8, even though I think that does, there's some ethical things involved in that anyways, but you're not, you're not necessarily affecting the integrity of the game at that point. Maybe I'm murking my own waters a little bit, but that's how I feel about that. Bad when a dozen people do it at once. Okay, if you're trying to get into the top 8 by yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think.
Have you ever taken a concession, or have you ever been in a situation where it's like a winning in against somebody who doesn't have a chance? Have you asked the forbidden question?
God, no. No, I could never ask that.
All right. Is it so? I haven't played enough high level games here. Is it so? It's not allowed, right? You're not on it. Like, you can't just walk up to the judge and be like, I asked him for a concession and he said yes, so I'm in the top 8 and he's going home. Like, you can't do that, right?
Well, sometimes it's just like, I think some people just sign the match slip and hand it in without
right. The guy without a chance, the person without a chance might be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be the one who ruins your fun here. Take the W, enjoy the rest of your tournament. But the person with a shot can't persuade the other person to make that decision.
Correct, I think.
Okay. I think so. It's murky. It's definitely murky waters. I take back it being okay. Just play your goddamn games. And
yeah,
and just see it through. That way, you eliminate the possibility of bad things happening by just doing it right in the first place. All right, thanks Andy for the question. Next up, we have Thomas. He asks, which hero do you think will have a surprising rise to meta contention in the next CC season?
I mean, typically the trend is something aggro to begin with. So we're probably looking at like Fi, Katsu, Viserai, something to that nature. And then as the aggro develops and gets stronger, then we start to look at counter strategies. And then that's when something like Lexi Ice Control can take over, and or maybe in this case Icelander or something like that. For me, I mean, I think Fi to begin with is going to be the hot hero and the one everybody's going to be on. I think it just makes sense to start there. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to start. So I think the first few RTNs, now that Uprising is legal everywhere, the first few RTNs, I think we're going to see a lot of Fi. And then after that, it's going to be the counter swing. And it's when that's where I'm not certain, is when the pendulum swings the other way, what the counter strategy is. I think looking to Ice is where I'm starting. Is Icelander good enough to rise to the top? It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. Gosh, and I think the meta is going to be so rock, paper, scissors to begin with.
I agree.
And I think that's going to play a huge factor in which hero will rise to the top, which one will have the least poor matches. Will it be an aggro strategy? Will it be a control strategy? Will it be a mid-range strategy? Predicting, for me, predicting beyond that is so hard. And I know that just beats around the point, and people want a hot take answer. I have such a hard time doing the hot take answer.
I'll do it.
Okay, what do you got, Pat? Dorinthia.
Yep, Dorinthia. Dorinthia needs to solve Prism. But once it solves Prism, and it may not solve Prism, but I think Dorinthia is better into. I think I'll say this: Dorinthia is probably one of the best aggro decks out there right now, and it has a good to great matchup into most heroes. It can handle frostbites well. It is, even right now, I think it has an okay matchup into Oldhim in the way that Kasai can have a good matchup into Oldhim. Just the nature of being able to attack multiple times when done correctly. I think it just lends itself to difficult positions for Oldhim to be in. So I do think some work still needs to be done on, when you play into that. But I'm interested to see if there is, in fact, so right now Prism is real tough for Dory to get through. So I would be interested to see if there is some tweaks to the main Dorinthia list that makes it a little more viable. And if you can shore up the Prism matchup while Prism is still around, then I think it is poised to really take off into the stratosphere here. And on top of that, if Prism, I think Prism's going to hold on to the top tier spot right now, and I do think it's in danger of hitting LL before the next ban and suspended list after Pro Tour. And if it does and it hits LL, look for Dorinthia to be one of the highest and quickest risers in the meta at that point. But yeah, so that, it's good. It's a good blocker. It's super aggressive. It has a great matchup, and it handles itself well into a lot of the meta. Just the way that it's built, and it still can play into things like Kano, Icelander, Guardians. It still holds its own into those matchups. So I think it checks all those boxes that you were just mentioning. And I just don't think it gets enough. I think people think the weapon is and it does a thing, and it's one trick pony, and it's pretty predictable. I think Glistening Steelblade changed the conversation a little bit. Classic Battles added a little more than people might have anticipated to the decks now, and it's a great deck. It's a great deck to run. So that's my my dark horse there, and also Katsu. So next, we'll save. There's one question we'll save for the end. Next, we have Capolo, Andrea Biaggi, asking, do you think that the popularity of people playing the new hero Icelander will make people pack more Arcane Barrier and make Kano less viable?
Well, Kano's viability isn't based on how much. That's the thing. That's a big misconception. Is
yeah. I know exactly where you're going, and I agree 100%.
Like, so much of Kano's viability comes down to the pilot and the pilot's ability to bait his opponent's cards out of their hand, and they're leaving their opponent caught with their pants down. So I don't think that is going to be what's going to dictate whether Kano's viable. With that being said, I don't think this is a good time for Kano. I think especially like a Kano heavy meta just gives rise to heroes like Dromite can deal so well with arcane damage. And Kano, even more so than Icelander, struggles to actually deal with the dragons. A lot of the Kano and Wizard generic cards from pre Uprising don't target allies, they only target heroes. So yeah, within that there are a lot of things that aren't going in Kano's favor right now. But yeah, no, I don't think Kano. I don't think it comes down to AB for Kano. I think it just comes down to the meta's not right for Kano right now.
Kano is always scary if you're not ready for it. I am likely packing AB3 at least, no matter what, for at least a little bit. And that might, obviously that's hero dependent, but if my hero can support it, I think for now I am gonna keep it in there. Because at the end of the day, if I see Kano and if I can't stop it, it's just inevitability at that point, right? It's a combo deck with inevitability that you're trying to race, and depending on your deck, you may not actually be able to race effectively. Like if you are, Dorinthia, right? Dorinthia with Arcane Barrier can handle Kano, but you need to have it there. If you don't, I don't think you can race fast enough on your own to effectively eliminate Kano. You have to then rely on Kano's variants to fail it at that point. So that's just like a tough spot to be in. So there are, so it's meta specific, right? If your meta is going to be Kano heavy anyways, then you definitely got to be prepared for it. But they do definitely prey on the unprepared. Icelander is another beast altogether. I do think AB3 is appropriate for Icelander, and I think a minimum of 2 is required. So if you can't fit the third in there, then so be it. But Icelander is coming from a different direction, and it AB3 helps a lot in that matchup when it matters. And that at the end of the day, right, that's the key to these wizards. It's not so much having the amount, it's about when it's being used and how much you have when the time comes for you to really need to pitch to save your game, right? And AB3 is probably the best, it's the best number to have in a situation where your game depends on having the ability to block arcane damage.
Yeah, and beyond that, if your game plan doesn't involve having the resources to use AB, like we've said in the past, you want to be on Spell Void at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Spell Void equipment is your friend. Monarch precons, get them, or at least get the cards out of them. They are very, very good. All right. Next question is by Hollow. Hollow asks, if you use Imposing Visage to tutor up Fog Down, does Imposing Visage lose Go Again? Or does Imposing Visage completely resolve with its Go Again, then Fog Down takes effect? To that, I went to the release notes for Uprising. And if you go to the release notes and see Fog Down, it describes 3 bullet points, so we're just going to read those. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Fog Down. Fog Down affects all heroes, not just opposing heroes. So that includes yourself. If Fog Down gained Go Again, it would lose Go Again from its own effect. Fog Down retroactively affects non-attack action cards that already have gained Go Again. Though now that I'm reading that out loud, does that necessarily, what if they inherently had Go Again?
Yes, they still lose it.
Yeah, right. I think that if they had the Go Again, this spells out that they would in fact lose the Go Again they once had.
Yeah, so I think, I'm pretty sure the answer to this is the Imposing Visage would lose the Go Again.
Mm-hmm. Very good card in Guardian, especially lately. It's real good. Imposing Visage. Visage. I like that. But yeah, Hollow, I think that's pretty straightforward. I am not a level anything judge, but based on the reading of the release notes there, I think it's safe to say that Imposing Visage would lose its go again from getting fogged down. So make sure you really want it.
Yeah, you really got to be confident that you're shutting down your opponent's game plan with it.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Alex Enslow asks, what are the best hot dog toppings?
Ooh, hot dogs.
Are you a hot dog? Are you a hot dog or hamburger guy?
I am both.
Ooh, excellent. An omnivore. I can appreciate that.
It really just depends on my mood.
Yeah. Do you have so top 5, top 3? What do you got? What's in the usual rotation of hot dog toppings for you?
Are we including condiments?
Sure. What else would be including? I suppose entrees on top of it. We can get crazy. You know what?
I mean, because like
whatever you want to put on it. Wait till you hear my answer.
Ketchup and mustard are like the obvious contenders. Like that, I find the pretty standard. I'm getting a hot dog at the ball game, and there's only really, I mean, if there's onions available, I'll toss the onions on there. Maybe sauerkraut if I'm feeling spicy. But then, when I can really get crazy with it, I like to slap like shredded cheese on there and jalapenos and barbecue sauce, hot sauce, sriracha, things like that.
Oh boy. How do you feel? Alex might have an aneurysm listening to the answer to this question. How do you feel about relish?
No.
Oh God. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I can't do relish.
I also can't. I'm not a relish guy. Can't do it. Can't do it at all.
I went through a brief phase as a kid where I liked relish, and then I smartened up.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Pickles are one acceptable flavor for me, and when you try to make something like relish out of them, you change it. It is dill pickle only, and any other form of that vegetable, fruit, whatever it is, that item in which you consume, I can go without. Dill pickles straight from the jar. That's where I'm home. But I do not put a full pickle on top of a hot dog. For the best hot dog topping over this way, I have to regale everyone with a little story. I know this is shocking that I don't just have a straight one-word answer, but I do live. I live in Massachusetts on the water. It is a tourist town here in Plymouth, and Massachusetts and Plymouth in particular are famous for a few things. Seafood in particular. So we do have the usual trappings of a tourist town. I live close enough where I can just kind of walk down, which is nice. But there is a restaurant there called Pebbles. Pebbles is kind of like a walk-up quick service, quick takeout, but they make everything. They got the griddle out back. If you ask for a hamburger, they call it out. They throw it right on in front of you. You watch them cook it. It comes out in 5 minutes, perfectly cooked, a little greasy, a little, it's good. It's fries, hot dogs, things of that nature. So one day a long time ago, I went down to Pebbles and I ordered a hot dog, and it came in one of those nice toasted buns with the butter, buttered toasted bun with a big hot dog in there, and I got a cup of clam chowder to go with it, because New England and Massachusetts in particular are famous for their New England clam chowder. So I get my bowl of clam chowder and I get my couple hot dogs and I sit down and I go, why the hell not? and I take the hot dog and I dip it into the clam chowder. And
Oh,
let me tell you what, it is the best thing you can put on a hot dog. Clam chowder. You put some of that cream, some of that clam on there, you throw it right on top, or you do what I did, and you get a bowl of New England clam chowder, and you make it as like a little dipping sauce, and you just put that in there, and you go to town, and you will not regret it. I promise you that. It has to be New England clam chowder. Do not do Manhattan. It is tomato based. We want a cream based chowder here.
have
But
you tried both? Have you tried both chowders? Are you?
I have not. I'm a one chowder kind of guy, and it is cream. It is the New England clam chowder. There's a place that has it, that sells it, that it is so thick that like it's not even a soup anymore. It's almost like a dough. It is so
Ooh.
it's so good. They put it into a bread bowl, and they put a little divot in the middle, and they put a little cube of butter that just melts right there, and it's got like the consistency, not dough, it's got like a thick mashed potato consistency to it, but it's so
Okay.
freaking good, so freaking good. But yeah, so I have dubbed that type of hot dog the New Englander. So if you ever hear about the New Englander hot dog, it is because I trademarked it and started a food truck, and I just started pouring clam chowder on top of hot dogs. So, Alex, I'm so sorry that no one here actually likes relish. He does, and he's really looking for a positive relish answer out of here. Um,
Sorry.
but you're not you're
Sorry,
not
man.
getting you're not getting that here. I will say, because this is our platform. A second favorite hot dog topping, goes to my mother's homemade Rebel chili. It
Ooh,
is
chili
it is a
dog. Yeah.
yeah, good chili dog. Hers is the Rebel chili she makes is sans beans, no beans. I like that about her chili, and has potatoes because we're Irish, and everything you make when you're Irish, it has to include some potato in there. So a lot of seasoning, a lot of love, little diced up potatoes mixed in with the ground beef, and I like to throw that on there on the hot dog as well, and that really makes the heart happy. In fact, I think I might be having some of that chili tomorrow for Fourth of July. Looking forward to that.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah, that excites me. That's the stuff I bring home. I pack up the whole. I hope she makes that big, like a huge pot of it, and I'm just gonna put it in a Tupperware container, and I'm gonna eat that for the rest of the week. So looking forward to that. And that, with the hot dog question being answered, concludes the mailbag section of episode 20 here at the Combat Chain.
Episode 20 in the bag. Wow. In the mail
I'm
bag.
saying, yes, in the in the mailbag indeed. Yeah, I think that I think that wraps her up in a neat little bow right there. Um, Things coming up here, and in our plugs, we have obviously come support the podcast on our YouTube channel. You can find us at the Combat Chain on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Click for the bell notification. We're putting them out there. We're putting the videos out there. Give them a watch, comment, like, engage. We appreciate all that. Any little thing that you can do while you watch these videos helps us get to where we need to go to. We are, constantly striving to get more subscribers, more views, and we love all you. We love this community, this game, and making this content. So, do us a favor and go to our YouTube channel and give us a listen, watch, and subscribe. You can also help us and support the channel by going to our Patreon at the link below in the show notes here. We have a single tier. Support us by signing up for that tier, and we are Patreon. Sign up for our Patreon if you choose to support us that way. It is huge help when you do that. You get a special role for our Discord, and we are going to be releasing shortly in-depth deck guide. We will be releasing a condensed version on YouTube, but to get the full version, you will be able to find that on our Patreon. And our first deck guide will be Katsu. I am editing it as we speak, getting it ready for release here. It is a pre-uprising Katsu list, so it'll be some updating happening towards the end for a footnote here, but we go into everything from the individual card selection. We go into analysis of equipment and matchups. We talk game lines. We talk about overall strategy. We talk about individual card strategy in game situations. Try to cover as many bases as possible, and if you are interested in Katsu or new to Katsu or even experienced into Katsu and just want to see somebody else's take on it, when that video is released, by all means, take a look at it. And again, that will be coming out, the condensed version on YouTube, with the full video coming out on Patreon soon. You can find us on the social medias. We are on the Twitter birds. You can find the podcast at The Combat Chain on Twitter. You can find myself at Pat Smashgood, and you can find Adam at FomToolery TCG. On top of everything else that's happening, Brendan Patrick is leading the Fab Fitness Challenge for July, and it is being headquartered from the Arsenal Pass Patreon Discord. But it is, it is a fitness challenge month in July, and we are both participating in that challenge this month. We will be providing periodic updates through the Combat Chain Twitter using the hashtag FabFitnessChallenge. When you yourself can, as a listener here, can also participate in the challenge, and the only requirement is that you get to it. Go out and do something to help yourself in the month of July. It doesn't have to be necessarily about physical fitness. Anything I can say that I posted some of my goals for the month in the Discord and in other venues, so it's public information. But I'm a big guy, right? I'm 5'8". I am 285 on a good day. That's a lot of twisted steel that comes with the sex appeal here. So I've been working on slimming down for a little bit. I have a history. It's probably a long story for another day, but I did have a goal this year of getting down a good chunk, and that's had a stop-start kind of thing going on there. But I'm using the month of July to get a better relationship with food, eating better, not necessarily going into a hardcore diet, but just getting, a sustainable, healthy relationship with food. That's one of my main goals. My other main goal here is to keep up with my kid. He's getting faster and stronger by the day, and he is super elusive, so I need to be able to outrun my 4-year-old, and we're coming too close to being even speed right now, so we gotta nip that one in the bud. But using the hashtag FabFitnessChallenge, you'll see content creators and participants all over the community posting their updates. Everything from what they've eaten, what they've done, how their day went, the hard things, the good things, things of that nature. And it really is just kind of a big accountability community-driven effort for the month of July, and we support it. So you'll be seeing that hashtag every once in a while, and some updates on the progress as the month goes on. All right, I think that should do it for episode 20 of the Combat Chain. Until next week, we're closing the combat chain. In the bag.